Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. Plenty of basketball to get through today. Lots of Q&A to be answered. But before we get into that, we have to address the chaos of last night, the chaos of the AFC in general. Miami losing that game really takes them out of the one seed picture. So Steven has been working on quite the model here. Now, let's not get intimidated here, but we're looking at the highs and lows of where these AFC teams have been and their percent chance to make the playoff this year. Then we can look at where they are currently. And then if you look all the way over to the right, you're looking at in the highlighted columns where we see technical betting value for them to make or miss the playoffs, because our percent chances are higher than the odds makers are implying here. So a lot to talk about in this picture. Let's start with Pittsburgh, Steven, and talk about, the jump that they've had, the emotional roller coaster of this team in the playoffs is insane.
Yeah, so when they came off of their beating Cincinnati when Burrow first got hurt, and then they're having the two easiest games you could possibly have on the schedule, which are two win teams at home, they were at 82.5% to make the playoffs. And then they lost both, couldn't have into a better team, right? And now they're down to 28%, which is actually the bottom of all the teams that are fighting for those wild card spots. So that they just, by handing over 50 percentage points to the rest of the field, it just kept a lot of teams back in it. The one team here that we think are kind of a lock is Cleveland, because so this column here, I know it's a little hard to see where it says 43%, number 30. That means the combined power ranking based sim win percentage of Cleveland's remaining opponents is only 43%, which is the 30th toughest or the third easiest in the league. So we like the fact that Cleveland already is right there in the five spot in the seeding, and they have an relatively easy schedule. We see them as a pretty fair lock to make the playoffs, but still a good value at -400 if you want to get something that's not exactly too exciting to pay off.
Right.
Yeah, we do like in Pittsburgh as another high percentage miss. Big game to AFC. Sorry, Mackenzie.
No, I just want to mention, obviously no one's to bet -400 on a future like this, but if you go down to Cincinnati, just an interesting team to talk about, because at some point when Joe Burrow went down, it felt like it was basically over for them, but Jake Browning has resurrected this team and their playoff chances back to where they were when Joe Burrow got hurt in Baltimore.
Yeah, so when they had got upset by Houston at home, they went from around 60% to make the playoffs down to 36, 37. And then, when Joe Burrow got hurt, they had just taken the lead 10-7. So that game was still pretty much, where we had in the pregame. And so at that moment, they were probably around 36% chance to make the playoffs. And they plummeted down to under 5 in our model when the only evidence we had of Browning was that he was not capable. But it was not only Browning, but Chase Brown. So something's going on with the name there. The rookie running back, who I'm not that familiar with, but has sparked the offense and seems to have given Browning a really nice safety net, a speed guy. He ran 22 miles an hour, I think, on his long receiving touchdown last week. He has a big play safety net so Browning doesn't have to thread the needle 30 yards down the field. He can just dump it off to this guy who's sparked the offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting stuff there. If you look at the NFC here, Tampa Bay versus Green Bay going to be another big game, considering Green Bay lost last night. That really hurt them here.
Yeah. So Green Bay, we love Green Bay in the power rankings. We actually have Green Bay and Tampa Bay fairly high rated in the top half of the league, or even top third of the league in terms of power ranking. Because in Tampa Bay's case, their really horrendous running game for most of the season has really turned around, with Rashad White having some big games running the ball. So, but this is next when they play each other. Tampa Bay's. So what they say here is they have a 41% chance of making the playoffs right now. If they beat Tampa Bay, it goes up to 54%. Sorry. If they beat Tampa Bay, it goes up to 75%. If they lose, it goes down to 37%. So they have more to gain than to lose this week. Because the NFC South is so bad, they really have still have a decent shot of winning that division, even if they lost, which is why you see that. Or it's Green Bay. By losing, they've given they look like a real threat to win the NFC North, but by losing last week or on Monday, their chances of making the playoffs fell to 46%, and they really need to win. If they beat Tampa Bay, they improve by +14, but if they lose, they drop by nearly double that, -27% chance of making the playoffs.
I see. Well, if anyone has any type of futures or playoff bets they're thinking of making, ask them in the chat because we have just about every number here to help you answer that question.
Yeah. The one I
All right.
want to point out is Minnesota too. Minnesota's got a 6-3 NFC record, so they have a nice tiebreaker. None of these other teams are even 500 or above 500 in the conference.
All right. I saw someone say they have a plus 1,800 Bears ticket to make the playoffs. I have a feeling that's not looking awesome here.
Well, yeah, we don't have the Bears, unfortunately, as a true contender for this year.
Yeah.
We only had them at 2.5% to make the playoffs. They're still 5-8, I believe, right?
Are they?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Yeah, and Jake was mentioning too, we're going to start talking about the draft data, how to bet the draft, which quarterbacks to bet on. I talked about it a little bit on HQ on Saturday, but something we'll start to hone in on as the season comes down to an end here. All right, let's move over to basketball. We'll put on our basketball hats here. A couple plays from Jake and Steven. We'll start with Jake, start in college basketball. We're going to Northwestern, going to Boise State. Boise State laying a hefty number here. I believe 24 is the spread.
Yeah, so it's Northwestern State, not Northwestern. That would have been
that would check out.
Northwestern probably would have been like an 8-point favorite over Boise State, but I like this. Degenhardt's been really good his last 3 games. The week before Boise's first game, he fractured his nose, so he wasn't nearly as aggressive early in the season. He was averaging just 4 rebounds compared to 6 last year. But his rebound numbers and assist numbers are up lately, and he's had, I think, 18 or more points his last 3 games. So this number is hit in the last 3, if you count Western Oregon, which we don't have in our database. But he still put up big numbers against them last week. We have him going for 23 points, rebounds, and assists in this game, so a good value.
All right, good stuff there. Let's move to one more college prop here. We're going to Texas Tech. They're laying 13 at home versus Oral Roberts.
So the implied total for Texas Tech, according to Vegas, is 79 points. So they expect quite a few points in this. Pop Isaacs isn't a point guard, but he's a shooting guard, but he has the ball in his hand a ton. He's hit this in about half their games. We have him going for 3 assists, but you're getting good value at minus 135 because it's at minus 150 in several books.
Okay. See some questions in the chat here talking about Southern Illinois and LIU team total. Trying to find their matchup.
So I know we have good value on Southern Illinois today. I was looking into that.
Yeah, we have them winning by 20.
Yeah, so we have no A picks today, but we like Southern Illinois, like the Salukis today.
Yeah, we have them by 20. It's because they're plus 15 at home this year, 4-0 against the spread, and Austin P is minus 13 on the road, 0-4 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. So it looks like a pretty nice spot for Southern Illinois.
Mm-hmm. I like the Chibuzo Agbo play as well from Nick. So I like that.
Oh, yeah.
And Southern Illinois is coming off a big win over Oklahoma State in their last game.
Nick comes prepared with the questions. Everyone should come with pen and paper like Nick does. All right, let's move over to the association. One game we have a few plays on. Golden State, 4-point dogs going to Phoenix, and we like Golden State to cover here.
Yeah, Golden State's lost their last 3 road games, but they dominated, or not dominated, but basically won probably 47 minutes of those first 48. It was the debacle where they had a 5-point lead with maybe 45 seconds at Sacramento, and they blew that. Bad turnovers. Then Paul George hit a game winner, or what ended up being a game winner in their final position at the Clippers. They lost by 1. And then they had a 3-point lead with a couple seconds left. They fouled Chet Holmgren on a 3-point shot, and he made all 3 free throws before, and then Golden State lost in overtime. So, but they've been playing well. In fact, just in terms of point differential and record, Golden State has been reverse of what they did last year, where they were awful on the road and great at home. This year they've been pretty bad at home, but actually pretty good on the road, and they're 8-3 against the spread. So Phoenix, there's excitement because it might be the chance where their big 3 actually all play for more than a few minutes. But, I still like Golden State in this spot because they've been playing well on the road. Suns allow plus 3% higher 3-point shooting at home and plus 4% higher 2-point shooting, and the Warriors are shooting better from both 2 and 3 on the road.
It's amazing how because I remember last year it was like so bad. Like their road splits were awful.
It was
And
the
I
easiest
do know
bet,
that
like a nice stretch, right? Just fading them on the road and playing them at home was like easy money.
yeah. Steve Kerr says have you guys seen the videos of him hating on the
techno
music and the EDM
Yeah.
techno music playing in the middle of the game?
Yeah.
Just that's fair. All right.
So the guy
Jake has a problem.
mixed his voice. Did you see that? The
Yeah,
DJ mixed
yeah.
his voice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Jake has a prop here too for this game, looking at Draymond Green.
Yeah, so Draymond hasn't had a steal in his last 5 games. Looking at his stats, this is the first season since his rookie year in 2012, 2013 that he's averaging less than 1 steal. But I think this is a really good matchup, especially if Beal does play. Beal only played 3 games, but he's averaging 3 turnovers a game. And Draymond's last, I think, 4 games, he's easily hit his blocks and steals against the Suns with 3+ in the last 4, and I think 3+ in 6 of the last 7 against the Suns. I just think that it's a good matchup for Draymond today. Even with the big 3 potentially back, I even like it even more if Beal is playing at point guard.
So he's had 18 turnovers since the last time he had a steal. It's a pretty bad ratio.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Regression to the mean. 2 steal, 2 turnover game. Right.
I need a regression to the mean button. There's nothing we love more. All right, let's move to another prop here. Heading over to Boston. Boston hosting Cleveland. 10.5-point favorites at home. We like Kristaps to get it done.
Yeah. He's let me see. His over, going back to his time in Washington, is I want to say I think it's over 60%. And in Boston at home, it's 5-2. For a lot of reasons, he averages right around 2 3-pointers. So this line makes sense with juice on over 1.5, but he averages over 1 more made 3 at home than versus the road. So he's over 2.5 made 3s per game at home, going back to last year. I'm a little nervous about Boston being, fully healthy. So maybe there's not a lot of shots going around, but maybe by having all the weapons, the percentages go up. I got burned yesterday by Dylan Brooks, who took a ton of shots, but it was basically, I think, 1 for 12. That's not my fault.
Over 6 from 3.
Yeah, not my fault.
Wild.
But
Right,
another thing that helps me
strong
is Evan Mobley he missed yesterday. I don't know if they were saving him for today, but hopefully he's not in there for this prop because he has the length and the mobility to stay with Porzingis on the perimeter. But without him, they wouldn't have anyone who could match up.
I'm trying to answer Nick's question about Drew Holiday steals. I think we have him at 1.04 if I'm reading across the screen correctly. Yeah, so I correct. Guess plus 160. So
not a lot of turnovers by Cleveland in the projection for this game. And I'm not sure why, but maybe I'm looking at Boston. Boston's only forcing 11 turnovers per game at home. On the year, just a little over 11. So Boston's not pressuring the ball too much, right? And that's resulting in a lower than expected steal rate.
Mm-hmm. Let's see another question about Nurkic over 12.5 rebounds and assists.
Nurkic is on Phoenix now. I still, think Nurkic is on Portland because
I know.
My bird brain. Over what's the stat? Rebounds and assists. We have him at right around 12.5, 12.4. So no value there.
Darn. How about let's go to Jokic plus money here for over 9.5 assists.
Okay. Denver at Chicago.
We have a 9.2 or 9.3. I was looking at his.
Yeah, 9.3. So
Jokic has actually struggled in his career against Nikola Vucevic. So that's. If you want to fade him, it's honestly not a terrible spot.
Yeah, they both played. I don't know how Jokic has done historically on a back-to-back road trip. Played 36 minutes yesterday. Had a great game yesterday in Atlanta, but they are traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Chicago played last night too, but it's in Milwaukee and obviously a little closer.
All right, I'll keep looking out for questions about props in the chat, but let's move over a few Week 15 games we weren't able to get to yesterday because we were waiting for, obviously, the Monday night games to finish up. Speaking of, how do you feel about the same time 2 Monday night football games?
Hated it.
Yeah.
I was like, I've conditioned my brain for Sundays to have a million things going on at once.
Yeah.
But Monday is supposed to be my time to relax, and I hated it.
This is true. All right, let's head to some of these games. Green Bay now trying to recover from this loss, hosting Tampa Bay right now, 3.5-point home favorites. But if you like Tampa Bay, you probably want to get that plus 3.5 before you get to that key number of 3.
Yeah, I'm still. So earlier today, I saw a couple books moving to 3, and it looks like that's still the case. That 2 of the 8 that I have configured are at 3. So you want to get 3.5 before it moves to 3. I think Green Bay, they were without what I think is easily 3 of their 5 best players, if not their 3 best players, between Christian Watson, Aaron Jones, and Jair Alexander at corner. So, assuming all 3. Yeah, assuming all 3 are playing, then I could see the model still has Green Bay at -4 for what it's worth.
All right, let's move over to the other loser of the night, Miami. Miami now hosting the Jets, 9.5-point-esque favorites. You could definitely shop around for this line. A lot of question marks and injuries to figure out before we make a strong decision on this play, I'm sure.
Yeah, it looks like it's coalescing around 8.5, 9. Just a few hours ago, you saw from 8 to 9.5. And so it's interesting. The early look ahead. So this time last week, Miami was a preliminary -13.5 favorite. So then Zach Wilson actually had his big game, playing pressure free, just able to use his arm and his legs. He against Houston's really good defense. The line steamed to -10.5 when it reopened. And then Tyreek Hill gets hurt yesterday, and we'll see how he's
player prop.
Yeah, and so now it's down to as low as 8. So a full 5.5-point move since over the last week. The model says if healthy, Miami still likes him by 10. As a Ravens fan, I know you can't always go on what happens when a team just gives up a big lead and ignore the fact that they did have a pretty big lead with 3 minutes to go. But the Jets probably don't have the team to come back in a late game situation. But if Tyreek Hill is severely limited at all, then this could go down to 7. So if you think that, if you're some kind of insightful Twitter doctor and think that Hill's not going to be anywhere near even 80%, then I would grab the Jets now.
And also let us know.
Yeah.
Because that would be good for us to know. All right, let's move over to the Giants. That boy Tommy DeVito heading down to New Orleans. We've seen some initial steam on the Giants, but you think it's settling back into probably a more appropriate spread here?
Yeah, there are a lot of people came. I'm not going to play into any kind of Italian stereotype from New York and New Jersey, but I did used to work a lot with the Sopranos production back in my previous life. I've supplied all the booze for the Bada Bing and all Tony Soprano's TVs for the last 5 years of this season. It's a show. Anyway, it has no relevance here other than right after that win yesterday and the way he led them was some really impressive play. Unfortunately, Jalen Hyatt had 2 catches but didn't have anywhere close to 19, his prop for me. But the Giants did steam from +6 down to like +4 in some spots. But now it seems to be going back to 5.5, 6. I think that the feeling is the Saints have been massively underperforming on the field. They had a big final score. They won by 22 last week, but they barely passed for anything. But I think the assumption is Taysom Hill, Rashid Shaheed, so their big play weapons will be back, and it's going back to New Orleans. I think you can shop around and still get a better price than 6 for if you like New Orleans. The model, if they're fully healthy, has the Saints at 6. Again, regression to the mean. They've been playing really poorly at home, and it's about time that they have some good performances.
Definitely. Let's move to Houston going to Tennessee. Tennessee laying 2.5 after all of the excitement from the night before. Now, this seems like another Twitter doctor situation. If you know what Stroud's status is going to be, you want to act now on the Titans.
Yeah. So another massive change from a week ago where Houston was riding high and Tennessee was not. Houston was a 3.5-point favorite a week ago. The early look ahead. So it reopened to just Tennessee -1.5 because of the injury concerns on Houston. Stroud Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, a tight end, who's been out a few weeks now. And then it steamed another point. And looking at the board, it looks like you could still get Tennessee -2. And you want to grab that if you think that Stroud is going to miss some time. I didn't see the concussion myself, but it sounded pretty bad.
Well, we cashed our Houston over, and not to be insensitive, that was all that mattered for me. So I digress.
And the Chargers under. The Chargers under 9.5 wins, which I believe you had on Sportsline.
I did also have that. I had both. My 3-unit whales were Texans over and Chargers under.
You should get a bonus for a month to go in for a month to spare.
I think so. I think we should make a highlight reel of all the things we've been right about, all of our futures, and be compensated.
Just don't ignore the wrongs. Just count the rights. That's all. That's all that matters.
All right. Well, with that, we will count the rights that happened tonight. Good luck with your bets tonight. Any more questions, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. We will be back tomorrow to answer more questions, go over some more basketball, and update you on everything we can. So we will see you guys tomorrow.